Welcome to the Horror Friendly Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new season of the Horror Friendly Podcast, part of the You Run Podcast Network. I am joined today, as always, by my lovely co-host, Chantel. Hey, Chantel.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's good. It felt weird saying that intro again.
It felt weird hearing it, to be fair, but I'm sure we'll give it a week, it'll all feel normal again.
It'll be fine, yeah. It's just a weird experience for both of us in the first time.
It's going to be weird, one film a week now.
I know. It'll be a piece of piss.
Yeah, it's going to be easy by comparison.
It'll be so easy.
It's so easy. But
we're
yes,
back.
We're back. And I think we're back with... The funny thing was, I said to my partner, I was like, oh, we're covering this one. And he was like, how have you not covered that yet? Like, this is such a classic. So...
Yeah. There's a lot out there that we haven't covered yet, like classics. Yeah. And this is just one of them.
We're doing our best, but it's going to take time. There's a lot of classics.
Yeah, there's a lot of good horror films out there, believe it or not.
And we'll cover the shit ones too. So we are doing the 1980 Stanley Kubrick, The Shining. So a family heads to an isolated hotel for the winter where a sinister presence influences the father into violence. At the same time, his psychic son sees horrifying forebodings from both the past and the future. So, Katie, do you remember your first time watching this?
No.
Does anyone?
I swear everyone just grew up knowing and watching this film. I don't know. No, it would have been a long, long time ago. It was probably one of the first horror films I ever watched.
Yeah.
I don't think it was even like the same sort of time that me and you were watching horror films together. I think it was even before that.
No, I think it was.
Yeah, my brother had it on DVD, so I think I watched it probably when I was way too young. Yeah, but I remember immediately loving it. Like, it was just one that, like, I think it's one as well that you appreciate as you get older because you like understand things more.
Yeah.
And like you can get into the sort of other bits. Just you know, everyone knows the classic bits, but as you get older, you can understand everything about the film, which is nice. Yeah, do you remember your first time watching this?
No. I remember reading the book. So it was I'll say that again. I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. It was The Shining that got me into Stephen King because I think I was like year 7 and an English teacher recommended him to me because she knew I liked the sort of dark stuff, which begs so many questions because you're like 11, 12. And she was like, you should try Stephen King. And our school library had The Shining. So I took it out and they let me. So many people. But this is the thing, again, like books aren't restricted. So actually, I just read this book and I remember it being fucking scary. Like there's scenes in the book that are scarier than in the film. And there's some, like the scariest bit isn't in the film. So that blew my mind when I saw it. But I can't remember because it's an 80. I've actually got the DVD still. But I can't remember if I somehow got a hold of it and watched it or if my parents must have had it. Like I remember sneaking out upstairs to watch it, but I can't remember how the DVD came. It must have just been in the house. And I just nicked it. It's so funny though, because to me, like when you look at like the side, it's just a plain white DVD. It doesn't look like a horror, like a typical horrors are normally black or red or whatever. And it's white. It's just, except for his scary face. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely one of the earlier horror films I watched.
So did you read the book before you watched the film?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. I mean, if you remember it, we can talk a bit about the book this episode as well. That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, it has been a while, but as I say, there's scenes that really stuck with me. Okay. I need to read it again, to be fair, because again, it's a classic. Yeah. But yeah, so I can't really remember my first thoughts, but again, I've watched it so many times since as well. It's kind of, my thoughts will have changed anyway. So
exactly.
Yes. Although I think, as you say, as you get older, you kind of realize a lot more. Because I think even when I was younger, 5 months in a hotel, I was like, that would have been easy. Like, I don't think I would have appreciated how hard that would have been. Or like how easy cabin fever kind of is. And Yeah, what effects that would actually have on you. I think I would have just been like, it's 5 months, get over it. Like,
yeah, especially when you don't have like a fucking son that has this weird psycho whatever ability that he has. The
well,
Shining.
the funny
Yeah.
thing is, like, I'm still kind of convinced that Jack Torrance doesn't even realize his son has these powers. Like, he's so involved in himself the whole film. Like, does he even realize his kid's going through a lot of shit?
I don't think either of them know he has it.
No.
Apart from obviously Miss Dick Halloran, who came in and
Yeah.
has the shine himself.
But there's no
But
adults in his life that know.
no.
So again, so it's kind of funny that it's like, oh, well, he had all this shit going on, but he didn't know he had anything going on. So I think I just assumed he was a bad character. And I think it was only as I got older, I was like, yes, he already had shit going on, but
Yeah.
that situation kind of accelerated it. And I don't think I appreciated that as a kid.
Yeah, that's true. He's really kind of on it, just on his own journey, really, in this
Yeah.
film. He's got a lot to
Yeah.
deal with. He went in room 237. He saw the twins. Like there was a lot.
Yeah, like this kid, I think all three of them go through very different journeys and have very different experiences, which is so funny when they're literally isolated together and all three of them are having their own adventures. Like, it is kind of funny how they do that.
Yeah. No, it's true. They are all going through their different experiences. Like Jack Torrance, like clearly an alcoholic, has anger issues, but stopped drinking. But you can even tell like the way Jack Nicholson portrays him, like he's always slightly on edge. Like anything will just switch. He could just switch so easily. You can just tell like his family kind of irritate him. Like you can tell like something is boiling there. And then when you combine that with everything else that goes on.
Well, it's so fun because even like in his interview at the beginning, and it's just like, how will your wife and son find? He's like, they'll be fine. And it's just that. It's like, well, I will be fine, so they'll be fine.
Yeah.
And there's not really, like you say, there's no consideration for them. He's just like, they'll do as they're told. So it is a really interesting, yeah, I think he is almost annoyed by his family. And he is almost just like, I'm gonna do my own thing. Fuck you guys, you do your thing. And they do.
Yeah. They do. They really do. Yeah. They go through completely different experiences. And they all like see different things as well, which I really like. Like none of them really have an experience together.
Yeah.
Like they all see different shit. Like when that whole scene with Jack and O'Grady, like that goes on for so long. It's one of my favorite scenes of the film. But like he just has this experience with O'Grady. He doesn't tell Wendy about it, doesn't tell anyone. But I think at that point he is so far gone that like he wouldn't, but
I think he wouldn't, but I also, again, like to him, it's one, I think he wouldn't because then he'd have to admit he was drinking rather than because he doesn't, like, it isn't because he's like, oh, I've got a whole basement full of people and friends. I think it would be because he'd have to admit he was doing something wrong. Whereas, yeah, she's gonna, like, she'd judge him for that. So I don't even think he'd question, though, that obviously he's going to go to the bar after work. Like, I think it's so bizarre, isn't it? Like, they can't even all be like, oh, this one ghost is haunting us.
No,
because none of them have seen the same ghost.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of ghosts in that place.
It's personal ghosts.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit going on in there. There really is. But like, oh, yeah.
It is weird, actually, because The Shining becomes such a small part of it. When you actually think about it, like it's literally almost only used as a saving device at the end.
Yeah, it's true.
Other than that,
yeah. I think it's just like a cool additional part, but like everything else, I think everything kind of builds on top of that. So it's like a nice little layer, but then like you also just have the horror elements and the fact that he just goes crazy, but is also influenced by the ghosts in the house. And yeah, there's kind of a lot going on in this film, but it's just done so well and so smoothly that you don't really, I think the pacing is really good.
Yeah.
In it. And I mean, God, I mean, cinematography, I mean, even that intro with just those amazing views and like just the classic scenes, like you can't not talk about them. That carpet, you know, Danny riding his like little bike around.
The original
the
Jigsaw. What is it?
Yeah, exactly. The twins, like it's all so iconic now. But even I imagine back then it was just, I don't know, so cool to watch.
I really, yeah, because like you say, I think that's the thing. You watch this and it's such iconic scenes, and it's so, oh my god, it's that part. Oh my god, it's that part. I wonder if at the time they knew how significant it was going to be. Like,
yeah, I mean, it won a couple of Razzie Awards. It was like worst director, worst
yeah.
actress for Shelley Duvall.
And that seems to happen a lot with horror, where it's like films that are really not appreciated when they first come out go on to become classics.
Yeah.
So basically, if you are currently a horror director and everyone is currently slagging off your film, give it 20 years.
Yeah, you're right. Like it becomes a good film, or it becomes like a cult film.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I can't believe I'm making this comparison, but Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I had the same thought, but I was like, not even the same.
But I just said it. But like, yeah, like obviously they're completely different films, and they got successful for completely different reasons. But yeah, this film I think was definitely ahead of its time.
It's so, and it's one of those, because again, like you do kind of rewatch it, and it is nearly 2 hours long. So I do actually, again, I've said it so many times, I'm always slightly more forgiving of the length of films when they're older, because the pace was always a bit slower. So you kind of expect it. Doesn't mean I like it, but I kind of am more forgiving of it when it's an older film. But there are points I'm like, come on. However, in this one, so much does happen that it isn't like 2 hours of just tension building. Like there is so much in there. The other than like that long drive really is a long drive. But as you say, it's very stunning. But it is fucking long. But then, yeah. But then even if you were to just like click across the bar, every time you'd stop, you'd be at some classic scene.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know what I would take out.
Oh, this is it. I'd like the pace to be a bit quicker, but then they've also tried to remake this, and I don't think there's any as good. Watch people be like, this remake, watch that one.
Well, I think Stephen King would disagree with you, because he famously doesn't like this film.
But wait, did he like the TV show? I should know this.
Yeah, the miniseries he preferred, I think. Yeah, apparently he was a big fan of that. And I think nowadays he's a bit less critical, like, of things coming out as adaptations. But I think back then, and I think especially the way that Stanley Kubrick was and his attitude towards Stephen King, I don't think helped. But I think Stanley Kubrick kind of quote unquote insulted a lot of Stephen King's work. So I think maybe Stephen King was a bit salty about that. But then also he just kind of said the way Wendy was portrayed, it wasn't how I envisioned, and how I wouldn't have got Jack Nicholson. Like, I think he just disagreed with a lot of Stanley Kubrick's choices.
I know he disagreed on Jack Nicholson, because I think he said, and again, I'm going to get this wrong probably, but I think he said he basically wanted a more normal guy that could snap, rather than Jack Nicholson, who's already kind of a bit snapped. Like, again, you think of most of Jack Nicholson's work, he plays like a gangster. Fucking hell, him in The Departed. It's like you genuinely think he's going to stab DiCaprio every scene. So I think that's the thing. Like him cracking isn't a surprise. Whereas if you had someone, can't think off the top of my head, but that you didn't expect to suddenly go that way, it would be much more horrifying. And I think that was the thing. I think he was an alcoholic, but I think he was supposed to be a nicer guy, or at least portraying himself that way. Whereas Jack Nicholson always kind of has that edge on him anyway.
He does. Yeah, that's true. Like, even from the beginning, he's not particularly likable. He's just, you know, trying to keep it together. But yeah, Stephen King was obviously looking for more of like a nice guy with flaws.
Yeah. Although saying that, and again, I've just watched the film, but immediately my brain is useless. I definitely remember it in the book, and I think it's mentioned in this, but the dad broke his son's arm. So yeah. So again, I was like, I'm sure that is mentioned in the film. So, but again, so even though that is portrayed in the book and in the film, so you do know that he's fucked up in the past. So we know he's not a perfect guy. So he doesn't like even that. So I'm like, well, you could argue that he doesn't start the most likable then. But again, I do find it a lot creepier when it is like someone who's nice and normal. and it's like, oh shit, you
Yeah.
Jekyll and Hyde, basically.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite hard to have a likable horror dad, isn't it?
I'm trying to think of like who you'd put in that role.
And now everyone's going to come at me because I'm sure there's loads, but I can't think. I immediately went to Sinister, but he was a dick.
He
moved his family into this like house
like
where all these...
I love Ethan Hawke, but he plays some really dickish characters.
But
like,
you know what? I mean, I guess this is probably like, not a knowing a subconscious thing, but like obviously Jack Torrance was aware what had happened in the Overlook Hotel and what O'Grady did, and chose not to tell his family. And I feel like that really foreshadows like a lot of horror families in these future horror films, like Sinister.
Actually, that's so true.
I can't think of it. There are loads, basically.
Although his son knew.
Just forget.
Yeah, dads are just like, look, I'm going to make the right decision, even though it's a fucking horrible decision. Yeah, no, the son knew. But again, like he was so young, he wasn't going to say anything and be like, oh, Tony showed me this. Like, and it's really horrible because you're like, well, what's the point in this ability if it doesn't save you? But then we wouldn't have a horror film, so.
Yeah, that's the end.
Just like, oh, we're not going because Tony says no. No. I love that bit where she's like, no. His voice, he does so well at like changing his voice.
He's so good. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. Oh, I did make a note. One of my favorite scenes is where they're going up the staircase and Wendy's walking backwards with the baseball bat, and Jack's coming up the stairs and he's literally like, Wendy, darling, light of my life. But he sounds like so horrible.
Wendy, stay away, darling, light of my life.
And he's literally then like, I'm gonna stab you.
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
And I think that for me is just really well acted. And one of my favorite, like Jack has snapped, but he's still trying to be like, Wendy, love of, like he knows he's not believable. He's not wording it that way. But that for me really shows that kind of like dual personality. And Wendy's just fighting for her life going backwards. Like, God bless her.
It's just like perfect. It's a perfect scene. It's just probably one of the most famous horror scenes ever. And it was done 127 times.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
I knew it was a lot. I forgot how many.
So Kubrick was very well known to be a perfectionist. And he would retake and do scenes over and over and over again. And that I think does obviously tie into what we'll talk about later with Shelly Duvall. But I think it was to the point, like there was one scene with Dick Halloran and Danny, and that scene I think it was over 100 times where they were just talking about The Shine, and it got to the point where it was just like that both of the actors were just so exhausted and just done. And Stanley Kubrick was known for that. So that baseball scene, like, oh God, it was just done many, many times. I don't know how he picked a take, but
that does make a lot of sense as well. Because again, so I watched this behind the scenes thing, and we will come on to it, as we said, when we talk about Shelley later. Sorry. But in it as well, it was saying that Jack Nicholson actually stopped reading the scripts because they kept giving him scripts, and then they have to like color code the scripts to show which version they're on, and he stopped reading them and he literally said, so it was Stanley Kubrick's mum had come to set and was asking why were the scripts in so many different colors, and so they were explaining this, and then she was like, oh, so do you have to read it every day? And Jack Nicholson was like, I just don't read it. He was like, I literally take what they give me in the morning. And so he was learning lines like 5 minutes before the scenes.
I just take the ones they type up each day.
Aren't you exaggerating a little bit?
No.
And I was like, part of me is like, well, Stanley Kubrick's like, how can you expect everyone to be a perfectionist if you're not organized? But if he's a perfectionist, you can see why that, like, no, we need to rewrite. But that must have been, I don't know. Again, like, I just can't imagine working in those conditions. Because it's like, you're trying to make a film. Also, I think some films, like when they've improvised and when there's been, and there was a bit of improv in this, But when there's improvising and when there's room to make mistakes, comes up with some of the best movie moments. So if you're trying to be a perfectionist, actually it can make your film look stiff. And I'm not saying this did, but it's I just wonder why pushing your actors to that breaking point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't agree with it, but I guess it did bring out some incredible performances. Like personally, I think Shelley Duvall was great in this. And that baseball scene, I think once I knew that, I don't know which take Stanley Kubrick went with in the end.
Number
but
one.
Just can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
But like they both look so physically and mentally exhausted, like especially Wendy.
I'm very confused.
Yeah.
So it did bring something out of both of them as actors. Not saying it's the right thing to do, but that's probably his reason, that he felt like, you know, I'm going to bring out this emotional distress so I can get the best performance out of them. It's fucking cruel and not okay, but clearly, you know, that's what, you know, that's how he worked.
So yeah, I did make a lot of notes on that as well from the like behind the scenes. And again, you've probably got a lot of the same points. So whether you want to go over it now,
go.
Well, so there was a bit. What was fun? Well, not funny. What was shocking to me is obviously it's not a secret that Stanley Kubrick mistreated Shelley. I always said I've really written Shelley C. I forgot to write down her last name.
Duvall.
Why did I write C? Shelley Duvall. It's not a secret that he mistreated her, but watching this behind the scenes thing, you literally see it. And I was like, hang on a sec. And then at one point he was like, let's talk in the other room. So it's like, so if that's how you're willing to talk to her on camera, what the fuck how are you about to talk to her? Like, it was really distressing. And at one point she was talking about how like Jack Nicholson was always getting loads of attention. And she was kind of joking because she was like, oh, you know, like sometimes I was jealous because I like attention too.
Whatever. I mean, there were times where I felt a bit jealous because he got very, very much attention. And I suppose I like attention.
And then it was edited that the next shot was her lying on the floor, as almost as if to say, look what she does for attention. But she'd literally collapsed from like exhaustion. People were covering her with coats and surrounding her with pillows. But the way they edited it was to make her look almost like an attention seeker. Then they just pan the camera around and Jack Nicholson's undoing his trousers because he was trying to get his mic pack out. So he was like, it was in his jeans. He had to like undo his trousers, but they just like, she's on the floor collapsed and they're filming his crotch. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what was going on the set? It was absolutely baffling. And then there's another bit where she was like pulling her hair out, like he was literally falling out. Did you see this one?
I've seen that one, yeah, and he has like a really dickhead response to it.
He's
like, oh, clumps of hair, like
yeah.
Well, I don't sympathize with Shelley. It doesn't help you, wouldn't it?
Yes, it does.
Clearly doesn't take anything she's saying seriously.
He like took some of it off of her and showed it to the camera, and then he was like, "Oh, don't sympathize with Shelley; it doesn't help you." I was like, "What the fuck is this asshole?" Like, and again, then that was the bit, and then like she literally at one point when he finally left, like looked at the camera and rolled her eyes. But you're just there, like, someone give this fucking woman a hug. Like, it was really heartbreaking. Like, no one else seemed, again, what they call on camera. I was like, but no one else was putting her down nearly as much as he was. And I was like, you're the fucking director.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be, but then, like, Jack Nicholson's there sitting there going, I don't even read the script. And he's just laughing. So I'm like, if you wanted to belittle them to get a good performance, why one and not the other? And I know, like, obviously their characters were different. But it just, yeah. And then there was another bit where he literally screamed at her because they were outside and she was the bit she's supposed to come running out the hotel into the snow. And he called action, but she couldn't hear him. So they like did it over the mic, but it was like weird. They called action, they told her to stop. And then they shouted action Shelley, and she didn't appear because she couldn't hear them through the door. And then he came over and was like, we're working our asses off out here. And she's there like, I'm literally here waiting. I can't hear you.
There's no desperation. Oh, come on. What do you mean roll
2
video?
seconds.
We're fucking killing ourselves out here and you're going to be ready.
I am too. I'm standing
Should we
right
play
by
mood
the
music?
door.
No, I
Yeah,
can't
but when you
hear.
came out like this, you should have just...
We're sitting there because I say, wait a minute,
okay.
and then you say
Yeah,
on the radio,
but when you
go.
do it, you've got to look desperate, Shelley. You're just wasting everybody's time now.
And it was fucking horrible because I'm like, you're a prick. Like, say it on the radio. It's why you have a fucking radio. Yeah, so it's just things like that. And I'm like, you've got no... Why aren't you saying it to yourself to be like, I'm doing the mistake? I don't know.
Yeah, no, like it is crazy. Like I read about it. It sort of seems it's always kind of been a known thing in like the horror world that she wasn't treated well. And that, there was this thing that like Stanley Kubrick ruined her career and all of that. And I don't know how true that is. She's always stood up for Stanley, like up until the his death. She very much like defended him and just said it was the hardest film I've ever worked on. But we butted heads, but it kind of worked for us, which may be true. Because there are lots of pictures of them behind the scene. They look like they're chatting at some points and laughing. So I'm sure there were moments, but it doesn't take away from the fact that there were quite a few other moments where she wasn't treated fairly. And the fact that she was treated like that and then, nominated for a Razzie Award when actually her performance was, in my opinion, fantastic. It's just so unfair. And I just think she was just so done dirty by this, by the film, but also she was really great in it. And she said in general, like she had a great time on set and her and Jack Nicholson got on. But there is that sort of thing where you see behind the scenes and you hear stories and that, that he wasn't that nice. So it's really conflicting.
It is hard because, you're right. They literally end it with her complimenting him.
So I resented Stanley at times because he pushed me, and it hurt. And I resented him for it. I thought, why do you want to do this to me? How can you do this to me? You agonize over it. And it's just a necessary turmoil to get out of it what you want out of it. I mean, we had the same end in mind. It was just that sometimes we differed in our means. And by the end, the means met. And I find I really respect him and really like him, both as a person and as a director. I mean, I'm amazed. He's taught me more than I've learned on all the other pictures I've done within 1 year's time on one picture.
And it's so weird because, as you say, he pushed her really hard, but she compliments him. But I cannot imagine. Like, I've had some really dickish managers, and I don't sit here and go, oh, but it was great that they did that, because like there's pushing me to do well, and I've had managers do that, and I love them. And then there's being a fucking bully, and those ones are the ones you don't ever want to work for again.
Yeah.
So I was like, there's a line. And I don't know.
Yeah, bully is a good word. I really feel like that's what he was.
That's what it looked like.
He seemed like a very tough man. Did some incredible films, a great director, but a very tough man and very tough on her.
Yeah.
And I do think I think for a long time, this film was very much focused around Jack Nicholson. As she said herself, he was such a big star. And when it did become successful, everyone just kind of spoke about him.
Yeah.
And I get it, because it is centered around him. It's centered around his, a lot of it is centered around his mentality and how it changes. He's the main character. I do understand that. But, there are also two other characters who are very strong characters that, are being used, and how, like, I just feel like Shelley Duvall was so good in this. And for a long time, I think it got lost on a lot of people, and probably including me when I first watched it. But I do think now people appreciate her a lot more, even, after her death. I think even before, I think people do appreciate her.
I think it's hard because there is one scene where she is running and her arms are kind of flailing, and they've made her look really, I don't know, like a puppet.
Yeah,
and
she does look a bit funny.
And unfortunately, it's the one part of the film that whenever you're like, oh, The Shining, you either picture her like cowering and screaming. And again, like when she was scared, she did it really well. Or like when she was trying to like look after Jack and after Danny, she was kind of like juggling between. She was fucking brilliant. And then there's that bit, and I'm like, again, if as well, knowing Kubrick, they did 30 shots of that. Why would you pick that one?
Yeah.
So again, was it trying to do her dirty? Was there a reason they were trying to make her look, I don't know, almost as if she wasn't in control? Maybe. Like maybe it was supposed to be more and it just got missed.
Yeah,
don't
I know what you
know.
mean. There are some scenes where you kind of think, like, surely that could have been done better. Like, she is capable of so much more. Like,
Yeah.
only some, like, yeah, your example is perfect. Like, when she's running around, like, it could be like she's holding the knife and sort of flopping around.
Yeah. See, you know the exact bit I mean.
Yeah. But then when she's in the bathroom and he's, bringing the door down, like, her performance in that, I think is just, I mean, she looks very fucking exhausted at that point. And like, I don't fucking blame her, but if you have to work with that guy every single day.
Yeah. But that was it. She was collapsing from exhaustion and then having to be on camera. So like, you get it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's a really difficult one, yeah, because when she comes out and, or she came out and defended him, that's great because it probably did really push her as an actor, but it still isn't necessarily acceptable behavior.
No.
Yeah,
no, it is a really hard, especially when she's the one being like, yeah, I'm okay with it. Then it's like, oh, well, I guess we shouldn't stand up for you. But it's like, but I still feel like we have to, because if a director nowadays was treating actresses like that, or any actor like that, actually, like, there'd be fucking uproar. But again, I think because people would learn about it a lot quicker. I think this was kind of filmed, possibly, everyone was very isolated. Everyone was very, the days were long. You don't really have time to be like, my director's a dick. Whereas nowadays, there'd probably be video footage of, look at this guy, like, belittling her. And I think there'd be a lot more annoyance straight away, rather than having to wait till the film came out. She's actually had a good night's sleep, rested and recovered. And she's like, actually, he did good. And it's like, oh my God.
I don't think it takes away from the fact that she's a woman as well. I think that's could be largely to do with it. I mean, Jack Nicholson was this huge A-list star that signed on to this project. And then you had her. Maybe he didn't take her as seriously because she was an actor and just as capable as Jack Nicholson, but she was a woman, she was playing the wife. She was the one that just kind of was scared most of the time, didn't really have any more depth. But I think what she did the best with what she was given. And I think in some scenes she is excellent. But yeah, I mean, I think her being a woman isn't necessarily a coincidence as to why he was such a bellend to her.
I think it's actually, you are so right. Her character didn't really have depth. Even the 5-year-old, 6-year-old had a fucking special power. She was the wife. She was the wife who got shown the kitchen. Like,
well, I think that was more of its time, but still.
Yeah, but again, she literally was working with all the damsel in distress, and that was her entire personality.
Because I think that was one of Stephen King's criticisms, because I don't know if you remember, but he was saying that Wendy was portrayed differently. He wrote her differently in the book.
Yes, but I can't remember how. Again, so I want to reread it. I remember when I first watched it thinking it was different, or like maybe later, maybe not my first watch. I remember thinking like it was very different, but yeah, I can't remember how.
No, that's fair.
Which is a bit annoying, but yeah, I think she was meant to be written a bit more well-rounded. She was definitely
well-rounded, I think. Yeah.
And again, it was like to do with the broken arm. Again, I think that was told from her point of view. So it was almost like she was really concerned, and she was just the wife, but she was a wife to an alcoholic, abusive, accidentally abusive, because again, it was like an accident that he'd broken his son's arm. So she was kind of like dealing with all that. Can she trust this guy? And they're going to go get locked in a hotel for 5 months, just the three of them. So she was already like, there was more to her. But
yeah. Well, it's interesting because apparently Stanley Kubrick would cut a lot of her lines and her scenes as well. Because there's one scene which I have seen, but it wasn't because I have the same DVD as you, and it wasn't on there. But it is when she's talking to the social worker about when Jack dislocates Danny's arm. And she has that, I think it's quite a famous scene where she's got her cigarette in her hand and it's like a really long ash. Yeah, but it wasn't in the version that I watched. But I have seen it. So I wonder whether it was in the extended version or it was something that Kubrick just added at a later stage.
Made her film it for no reason.
Well, yeah, but that was a scene that she was actually talking about. Like that probably could have been a scene that would have given her a bit more depth because she's talking about the scene and stuff. So we'll have to find it on YouTube and maybe, you know, put it on Instagram or whatever. But I mean, I didn't see it in that version. I'm not sure if you did, but
No,
we
I
have the
didn't.
same version. Yeah, weird. But that, you know, that could have been a scene that we could have been really impressed by her, you know,
Yeah.
because there could have been a bit more of a deep conversation. But it's difficult because also she's great in it, but there are also bits where she is done dirty. So it's like,
Is no, that's pretty much it. She's great. She could
yeah,
have,
she is
but she
great.
could have been. Yeah, she's good. She could have been great.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, you know, we're two women, we're talking about horror here. We can't not bring up the fact that this is how she was treated.
Yeah. It's really hard as well because there isn't a lot we can say about The Shining that hasn't already been said, but a lot of people will typically focus on, you know, Jack Nicholson or the lady in the bar. Even the lady in the bathtub, I'm pretty sure has had more conversations about her than fucking Wendy Torrance. Do you know what I mean, though? It's like, don't be wrong, that's a fucking creepy scene. But it's just like, again, shows what a piece of shit her husband is, and she's having to deal with all this. I'm surprised she did actually that. I want to rewrite Stephen King. Listen, let's rewrite it, but she fucking snaps because, quite frankly, she's having to deal with all his shit. More realistic. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Way more realistic.
I want a remake of The Shining. And just as everyone thinks he's gonna crack, she fucking turns around and she comes flying through the door. Like she had every right to fucking crack. Like.
She did. She definitely did. Well, yeah, you're right. There is, you put that perfectly. There isn't a lot that hasn't been said about this film. I mean, there's a whole documentary dedicated to Room 237, which I have never seen and I really want to, but it brings out all these conspiracy theories about it being related to, oh God, I think the war. It's related to the first man that walked on the moon, that Stanley Kubrick like planned that or something. It's mad. Like there are so many conspiracy theories about The Shining, about the
did Kubrick direct The Man Walking on the Moon? Is that what they're trying to say? What if he belittled him as well from the spaceship? You're a piece of shit. Now get on the moon.
I think they said that he was part of the staging of The Man Walking on the Moon, and there's and like the, you know, the famous carpet. There's a lot of theories about that. I mean, honestly, if you guys, you know, need something to watch on YouTube, you could go into a YouTube hole. Like I wanted to, because obviously I've known, you know, we've both known for a while that we're covering this film. And I was like, right, I'm getting into this. But it was just too much. There's just too much out there about The Shining.
It's all right, we have full-time jobs, so we can't get lost in a YouTube spiral from 9 to 5.
It'd be a perfect thing to watch in bed to like fall asleep to. Yeah. So I might, you know, do a bit more.
You said I'll be texting you at 5 a.m. like haven't slept a drop, but did you know that the carpet, there's a thread in the carpet that spells out Neil Armstrong?
Well, I think it stems from Danny's wearing that little sweatshirt that says Apollo. That, and I think like it stems from that. There's a lot going on in this film.
I need to watch some of it.
But that apparently, I mean, I'm sure there are people listening that have actually watched this. It's quite a famous documentary, Room 237, but I really want to watch it. But yeah, there's a lot about this film.
I do think though you should do Wendy Torrance for Halloween because you've got the long hair.
That's true.
You could do it. I'll be Jack.
Okay. Yeah.
I can look psychotic.
Yeah, we've done a lot of Halloweens together. You definitely could.
Yeah, I could. Although I was going to say, because the other obvious choice is the twins. But do you know what's funny? They're not real twins.
What?
Those two kids are siblings, but not twins. Which is baffling to me, because how could you not just find a pair of twins?
That is insane. They're the same person.
I swear I'm going to double check this, but I swear.
Well, I think one is slightly taller than the other.
I think there was I think one is like a year older or something. Let me find the fucking twins.
Come play with us, Danny. Oh, but isn't that just such a great fucking scene though? When
it's so good.
the quick shots into when they're dead on the floor and then back to when they're together. It's just chef's kiss. Stanley Kubrick, you were an asshole on the set, but you did some top tier shit.
Come and play with us, Daddy. Forever and ever.
Oh, motherfucker. Like, I was always told, I don't know where I heard it. I'm going to be really annoyed now. I was always told they weren't actually twins, but they are listed on the cast as Lisa and Louise Burns are identical twins. Motherfucker. Oh, hang on.
Fake news.
Oh, sorry. The characters in the book and the film script were sisters, not twins, but they cast twins to play them.
Okay.
That I knew there was something about them not being twins, but I thought the actresses weren't actually twins.
Yeah, you're not massively off.
Yeah, which is funny though, but I never questioned it because I was like, well, yeah, siblings look the same when you're younger because you haven't developed personality yet.
Yeah, you and your younger sister probably could have.
Did I ever tell you the story? Sorry, sidetrack. When we were, it was my older sister's wedding. But when we were getting ready and like doing the bridesmaids dresses and stuff, she picked out this, it was like quite a green floral dress. And we went to try them all on. And we were over her house trying them all on. And me and my little sister walked out. So we'd been in opposite bedrooms, walked out, saw each other, pissed ourselves laughing. And we literally were like, we look like the Shining twins. Not because we weren't even in those sort of dresses. I don't know what it was. So we came downstairs to just like freak my older sister out. There's a picture of us somewhere just like, hello, Ellie, want to play with us? We don't look like hands. Like, yeah, we did. We don't even look like each other now. Like we've grown up, but because it was the whole thing. So there's a picture of me and my little sister pretending to be the Shining twins, just to freak my older sister out.
Well, I know, your sister probably won't want to be on the podcast, but please show me this picture.
I will. Yeah, I was like, fancy me sharing this there.
You can ask her.
Yeah, I may just like, I'll put your face over hers. Yeah. Like, can I share that picture? It's so funny. We just look, we look insane. It's like looking at my older sister, like, you picked these, really? Like, it's going to be one of those. I'm going to see the picture and be like, it's not that Shining related. It was just in the moment. Never mind.
It's just in the moment. Yeah, it was a funny sibling moment.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? Yeah, why not have multiple siblings if you can't torture one of them using another?
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, the amount your famous Halloween parties, I'm surprised that you and your sisters didn't do that as a costume at one point.
I think because we were adamant we didn't look alike. So we were never going to do, we'd never been like the three witches. I would have absolutely done it with a friend. But no, I can't. Not when you're a teenager. I can't do that with my sibling. Are you serious? Like,
yeah, we never did it, did we, Tal?
No, we did not.
There's still time.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I feel like there's such wasted opportunities that we haven't done this already.
We haven't done it. Yeah, we both got dark hair. It could work.
Oh my God, little bunches.
Yeah. Okay, we got to make this work. We've got this happen.
We've got this. And then later in the night, you come out as Wendy and I'll come out as Jack.
Perfect.
Boom. Sorted.
We've got this covered, guys. We've got this covered.
We got this.
It's just, there's a lot of iconic moments. I mean, the twins, it's just so I don't know if we've covered a film yet that like basically nearly every single scene has been in, those, shit programs that you watch on TV that are like best horror scene of all time. Like, here's Johnny, the twins, the lady in the bathtub, great O'Grady.
But you're right, because everyone who's like, anytime you stick your head for a hole now and you're like, here's Johnny, everyone's quoting this. But Jack Nicholson was improvised, and he's quoting, what was the talk show?
Johnny Carson.
Thank you, Johnny Carson.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Johnny.
But nobody knows that anymore, unless you're like, I heard that from someone else. But that's the thing. I was like, only like a certain generation above know Johnny Carson. Nowadays, everyone knows that from The Shining. So, which I remember watching that as a kid and being like, but his name's Jack. couldn't figure it out. Didn't know why he was playing Johnny. I was like, has he gone? Has he forgotten his own name at this point? Like,
well, it could have been taken that way, that he was just he's lost it so much that he doesn't know who he is anymore. So it could have been taken lots of different ways.
Yeah, but you are so right. Like this, and this will have been referenced in so many films. Like even people just putting that car. Actually, isn't the carpet in Toy Story?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so.
In the neighbor's house.
Yeah,
Like,
the shilling, which we covered last year.
We did the shilling for Halloween. Yeah, there's so many references to this. And again, not even in other horrors. Like other films will just be like, oh, Jack's all work, no play. And like people will quote it in other shows. And I just think it's had such a huge influence on pop culture, not even just horror. 100%. But you will constantly see references to it.
I will say, I'm so sorry. I think I've been calling him O'Grady this entire episode, but it's just Grady, I believe. So I've literally just thought that in my head and I was like, oh, fuck. So I do apologize, everyone.
Oh, dear.
But, I mean, I know. But that scene as well, you know, when he's like, you've always been the caretaker. Like,
yeah.
Oh, God. And then, you know, he's like cleaning up and there's suddenly something that I think with this film as well, like you don't necessarily have to understand all of it, like saying you've always been the caretaker and like the famous ending where he's in the photo, like,
yeah,
you know, there's lots of things that don't have to make sense, but I think that's what makes it scarier. Like that interaction with Grady, I think is one of my favorite parts of the film because it's just so eerie.
I think as well, like you say, that's why we're still talking about it all these years later, is because I think it's the same as a thing. It leaves you questioning. So there's so many times with films where we've been like, oh, like if I don't know, it's going to really annoy me or I really want to know. And actually, those are the films that still get spoken about because everyone has theories and yeah.
What did you take from that ending? Did you sort of think this is what happened or?
It's hard because if he'd gone up there on his own, I'd have been like, oh, he was always the caretaker. But surely his wife and kid would have known that.
Yeah.
Like the fact his kid's like, oh, are we going to a hotel for the winter? Isn't like, oh, we're going back to the hotel. Like,
also, wasn't the date like 1914 or something?
Yeah, like he should have been like hella old. Like, I'm not good at math, but
you probably would have been dead, I guess.
Well, that's it. So yeah, like well, again, when it's like the guy at the beginning in the interview who's like, oh, well, the guy went crazy and killed his family last year with an axe. It was like, well, is it just him stuck in a cycle?
Yeah.
Is it just him is this his life now, just reliving this every year? Except he didn't actually kill his family with the axe.
No. Yeah, they escaped. So what? I mean, I took it as like he is just part of that hotel now.
Yeah, I think he's been absorbed.
Yeah, he's sort of like been reincarnated into this picture, and I think that's what kind of Stanley Kubrick said that it was supposed to be. I liked it though. I thought it was cool as fuck.
I like it because it adds more. Although I will argue how can he become a part of the hotel when he died outside?
True.
He's just hauling the shit out of that maze. I love that shot though as well, where he's just in the ground and then it like shoots really quick to him frozen.
Yeah.
Like it's so good.
That always used to scare the shit out of me as a kid. That quick shot of him, his face always used to just freak me the fuck out. That was the scariest moment for me when I was a kid.
Yeah. I mean, it is a bad moment.
Yeah. I think this episode is us just being like, do you remember this bit?
Do you remember that bit? Sorry, everyone listening. Like, God, you two. Like, we're on a bit of a ramble tonight, yeah.
It's our first episode back. Give us a break.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. That is, I do love that bit. This is okay. So there is a bit in the book. So if you are currently reading the book, you don't want spoilers, skip ahead like 30 seconds. But there is a bit in the book which was the scariest to me, and there was like meant to be a playground outside, and Danny hides in like a tunnel, and then there's all the hedges, and the hedges were meant to be all cut into like animal shapes, and they all start coming alive and like hunting him down. But they're like he's like in a tunnel and literally can't leave out of like either side because of these fucking hedges. And I don't know why, but the way that scene was written on that chapter, it was fucking horrific. Wow. And so I remember being really, like when I was watching the film, I was like really nervous for that scene, and they never put it in. And I was like gutted because it was like a scene outside. It was earlier in the book, I think, because it would have been earlier in the season, if I remember correctly, because like it was before the snow. So I was like, so expecting it to be this like terrifying scene, and it never happened. And I was like, I want, and again, maybe somebody would be like, oh, watch this remake, they did it. But I was like, I haven't actually seen that scene play out. I don't know if I want to, because it still plays in my head. Maybe I need to reread the book. I really do. Now I'm talking about it, it's making me want to.
You should reread that bit and see if you can find it. Like maybe it was redone like on YouTube or something.
Maybe. It's honestly that whole scene. And it's so funny when like I've read horror for years and it still cracks me up how like reading horror can be scary.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, it makes no sense because you're like, I'm just reading the words, but it's like, that really can put you on edge. So close the book. No. Actually, isn't that a Friends thing where it's like you put The Shining in the freezer because it gets too scary?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why do you have a copy of The Shining in your freezer?
Oh, I was reading it last night and I got scared. So.
It is. I think reading something is way scarier. Like, I remember reading American Psycho, and that is just so much more graphic than the film, like 10 times more. And like, it stuck with me for a long time. There was one particular scene involving a rat and a woman, and I won't forget about it for a long time.
See, when you said about reading up, my brain went to The Exorcist. Because again, you're like, now there's so many horror films that do stay with you. Not only stay with you, but then the books are like horrific.
Yeah, The Exorcist was a really fucking scary book.
Yeah.
Really scary. Yeah. No, I mean, I never really got into Stephen King, but it is always really cool, like covering Stephen King films with you, because like you have read a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
like it was the only scary author we had in the school library. So I read like as many of them as school had.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a few Stephen Kings, but like, there are more to cover. We've got to tackle it at one point.
We've got to tackle it, which will be interesting to talk about the book side. I think as well, like, don't forget The Shining. Yes. We'll talk that off camera. Only because it's a very long story, not because it's like not appropriate. The Shining does also have a sequel, which again, like, I think is really interesting because this one's The Shining, whereas the sequel focuses a lot more on The Shining as a power. So I think that's really, I actually loved that book, and I do love the film. It's so long, but there's a perfect point you can stop halfway and then treat it like 2 films.
Yeah,
if you're as bad as me. It's insanely long.
Was Doctor Sleep a relatively new book or not really?
Yes. So Doctor Sleep only came out. Film came out in 2019, but the book came out in 2013.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, so I remember like hearing that there was going to be The Shining sequel. And then it was like, again, he was called Doctor Sleep. So it wasn't even like connected. So again, you could have just read the title and not realized it was actually had anything to do with The Shining. But I think Stephen King took it a great direction.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have been really easy to just do a sequel and be like, oh, let's go back to the hotel. And it's nothing like that. Like, they reference the hotel, they reference Danny's past, but Danny's like grown up and he's living with The Shining. And it's, I really like, he's played by Ewan McGregor in the film. So I do, and I think it's really great. But I do like that he took it a different way, and it was like, well, we're going to tell Danny's story now.
That is a cool idea. That's a really cool idea. Yeah, I have seen it. I just remember I did enjoy it. I remember just being extremely long, but I only watched it once, so I'd like to rewatch it.
Yeah, there's also like a scene or two where it's actually really hard to watch because it is quite. Yes. Not just me.
No. No. One thing I want before we get on to before we get on to spookies and Will We Survive, I did want to just read out Jack Nicholson's tribute to Shelley Duvall, because I thought it was only a small part of it, but I just think it's really sweet. Her kind and selfless spirit is something I'll emulate in my own life. She was always the same pure-hearted Shelley. At one point, she laid her head in my lap as I read her the fan letters, and I made sure to commit her glowing eyes and warm smile to my memory. I just thought that was really sweet.
That is really sweet.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice words. So well done, Jack Nicholson. On a, is it a lighter note? Would you survive The Shining? I mean, this is a difficult one because who are we in this situation? Because like,
That's such
are
a
we
good point.
Wendy? Are we Jack? Are we Danny?
Okay, I know Charlie is no longer on the podcast, but assuming you, me, and Charlie are in the hotel,
Yeah.
who's most likely to end up as Jack, Wendy, or Danny? Charlie would give herself Danny because she's the youngest.
Yeah, she would. Or she would say, Charlie was ruthless, so probably Jack. She'd just fuck off and try and kill us. No, I think she'd say Danny. She would
I
say
think she'd say
Danny.
Danny because also, funny enough, she's probably I'd say the least drinker out of all of us. So she doesn't.
That's true.
You and I have a problem.
Yeah, I'd probably be Jack.
Oh, so Danny's our child.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Charlie would give herself Danny.
Mm-hmm. So Charlie's
So
surviving.
in theory, we think she's surviving.
Who are we?
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, fine. Oh, if we were Wendy, you know.
Yeah. Would we?
Would we? I mean, it was only when Dick Halloran turned up. That was the only reason that Jack didn't kill Wendy when he had the chance.
True.
So if that happened again, and we were lucky, then, I'd survive. But then Wendy survived anyway. It's a really hard one.
I was going to say something. I don't know if it's like insensitive, because we are all very aware this is a really shitty, at this point, abusive, borderline, murderous relationship. Actually, not even borderline, straight up murderous relationship. And I was going to say, I think we'd survive because we've both survived shitty boyfriends. But I don't think any of our exes have tried to kill us. So it's probably not quite the same comparison.
No. No, well, because Wendy was like with him. Like, she was staying with him, Yeah, okay, fine. If I was Wendy, then I'd give it my best go. I have Dick Halloran's, car,
a
snowmobile thing.
I think, yeah. I mean, she did a lot of things right. Like she got him locked in I was gonna say the freezer, but it wasn't. It was the store cupboard, and she didn't let him out even when he was trying to manipulate her. So yeah, I think she did a lot of things right.
She did. Yeah. And Danny was really clever with the footprints as well.
Yes.
So if I was as clever as him, I would survive. But I'm not. So I'm gonna say no.
Fuck me.
I think I would be hacked up.
And if we were Jack?
Well, because it was sort of like, it was justified why he died because he was so insane at that point that he didn't even think about the weather. He was just out there looking for them.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, I sort of got why he died. But then if I was in the house with them still, then there could have been a high chance that, no, we wouldn't have, because the caretaker kills the kids, the wife, and then kills himself.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any way.
I mean, we would have. Because again, like you say, survived. Like once he's switched, he doesn't have any survival instinct. He's not going to feed himself. He's not going to. So even if you did,
he's going to kill himself. Yeah,
he's either going to kill himself or he's just going to, just rot away and do something stupid. Like he's not stable enough to.
No. Yeah. So, I think you're right. I think it was. I think if we were the kid and the wife, then we might be all right.
Yeah. Fuck, that was bleak. What are you giving this spookies out of 5, and what's your favorite spooky moment?
I was watching it and I just was like, I could have picked any of them. I think I'm going to stick with my childhood one, which is when you see him trapped in the snow, because that scares me now. And it scared me 20 years ago. 20 years ago, how old am I? Probably more, 20,
probably about that.
15, 20 years ago. So I'm going to stick with that. And I'm giving it 5 spookies. It's so fucking good. Like, it's a classic. It's one of the greatest horror films of all time. It's it's just so iconic, and it makes you proud to be a horror fan. I mean, of course, there are a lot of elements to it about how Shelley Duvall was treated. But I think in general, it was just a fantastic film. So yeah. What about you?
I think, again, I almost don't want to give it a 5 because of how Shelley Duvall was treated. But again, because she's the one saying, actually, it was good. Like, it's really hard to not. So, but again, I think The Shining as a film, as a book, as what it's done for horror, as what it's done for pop culture, I think you've got to give it a 5. Like, it's so up there. And I know, again, a lot of people are like, they don't like the film, or they don't think it's that great and doesn't deserve the title and recognition it has. But you can't deny the recognition it has. Like, it's up there. But I think I'm gonna go with a weird. Well, I was gonna mention it, I completely forgot, but it's something that kind of happens throughout the film, which is just anime sweets. But something that always happens throughout the film is Jack keeps looking at the camera, and I think it's there's a theory that it was done to kind of like unnerve the audience. And I think at points he does it. I think he does it like when he's talking to Grady, and it's almost to make you feel like you're part of the film. And it's one of those really weird things that is almost like psychological, where you wouldn't actually notice that he's looking at the camera, but unless you've like watched the film several times, but you'll start to know, you start to feel like you're in the film, you start to feel like you're in the situation. And I think just that's a really clever technique. And there was even a bit where like Kubrick or like the camera person was on the floor filming him upwards as he's like banging on the door trying to get out, and even then like he manages to kind of like look down. It's just really unnerving and really unsettling, and I think it was really well done. So yeah, only because that was ongoing. As you say, you could have picked 20 moments from throughout the fucking film.
Yeah, you could have just picked any of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, nice. That's a really cool, like, subtle one. Love it.
Love it. Right, well, amazing. We're back. We're a mess. We will get better at this again now that we're back in our normal flow. But yes, join us again next week. Catch us on all the socials to see what we're up to, see which next film we're going to be covering so that you can watch it and follow along. Until then, bye.
Bye-bye. Don't die. Here's Johnny.
Here's Johnny.